Good morning from New York City. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. It is kind of cloudy in the city today, but it's definitely starting to warm up. So I've got my spring clothes on. So I'm jumping in here today to talk to you about personal style. And the way I am going to talk to you about this today is probably different than the way other people are talking about it, because from what I understand, most other stylists, they see a curated wardrobe. They see this as an end game, right? Like you get the curated wardrobe, you got the clothes that you love and that look good, and then you're set. But actually, I see the curated wardrobe, I see this more as the starting point, right? You get the curated wardrobe, you feel good about how you look, you feel confident, and this is just the beginning, because I see when you're starting to get dressed in the right clothes that give you confidence, this is a way to elevate your self-image. And when I'm talking about self-image, I'm actually going underneath perception, right? This is more about self-reception. This is about tapping into your intrinsic self-worth. So in essence, the way I see personal style is that it is in service to your personal evolution so that you can retrieve more personal power, okay? So what I'm gonna share today, this is gonna be especially relevant for you if you're a midlife woman and you find yourself in a transition, right? So things are just not looking the same way that they used to. All right, so maybe you're like me and you're in that whole empty nest thing, right? So the kids are starting to get older, they don't need you as much, right? Maybe they've left home, or maybe your transition is more about a relationship. Maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you're starting a new relationship with someone new, or maybe your transition is career focused, right? So maybe you're pivoting in your career. Maybe you've ended one job, maybe you were laid off. And the reason I say that is because some of my clients have recently been laid off. And so you're in this stage right now where you're figuring out what's next in your career, or maybe you're already in a career and you just know that there's something more, something better waiting for you. So whatever your transition is, I call this your reinvention era, right? So a lot of people refer to this transition time as a gap. I've seen that so many places, like it's a gap, right? And when you look up the word gap, that is literally, that means unfilled space. And this time in your reinvention era, it is not unfilled at all. There is actually a lot going on here. And depending on how you use this time, it really can be a beautiful opportunity to shift the way you see yourself. Okay, so when we talk about this reinvention era, right, so that means when things are just shifting, there is a life force that is pulling you, right? So this life force, it is an energy, it is a vitality, right? It is a life force that is either pulling you into an upward cycle, or this life force is actually dragging you down into a downward cycle, okay? Now, I'm sure that at some time in your life, you've probably experienced both, right? When you're in the upward cycle, this is when you feel very fulfilled. This is when you feel very energized. This is when you feel connected to your truth, right? You feel connected to who you are, you feel connected to your purpose, and there is an uplifting quality, energy that is fueling your every move, right? So this is when you feel like you can just take on whatever is thrown at you. Okay. And then I'm sure that some of you have also experienced what it feels like to be pulled or dragged into the downward cycle. Okay. So this is when you're feeling disengaged. You're feeling disconnected, you're uninspired, you're bored. This could definitely be with your wardrobe, right? A lot of times I see this with my clients when they come to me, they're in the downward cycle and they're very bored with their clothes and they're really dressing from the past, right? So they're really pulling from their former identity, right? They're dressing as their former identity, and this is impacting how they're showing up. They're being seen as a past self. All right, so that downward cycle, this is really a time when you're just feeling disconnected and bored and uninspired, okay? Now, if you're like, actually, Alicia, I don't feel like I'm in the upward cycle. I don't feel like I'm in the downward cycle, right? I don't feel especially invigorated or energized. And also, I'm not feeling completely disengaged and bored, right? Maybe you feel like you're kind of stuck and you're not really moving at all. And I just have to say that there is no stagnancy in these cycles, right? You are either in the upward cycle or you are in the downward cycle, right? That's just physics, right? Either you're moving up or you're being dragged down, and there's no stagnancy. So if you are feeling stuck, then you're in the downward cycle. And what happens in the downward cycle is that your sense of self, it starts to erode, okay? Whereas when you're in the upward cycle, this is where you feel full with your personal power. Now, one thing I want to mention about when you're in this reinvention era, right? So maybe you're going through a divorce, or you're pivoting in your career, or maybe you're empty nest, right? Dealing with the empty nest. So many people, and there's just so much out there about all of the loss that is happening in this transition, right? There's a lot of focus on the loss, and rightly so. It is a period of significant change, and there is a lot of loss involved. But the way that I like to work with my clients, my styling clients, is that we focus on the reinvention. We focus on where they're going, who they're becoming, and what they're going to do, right? So we really use this period of the reinvention era to really ensure that they're progressing in the upward cycle, okay? So what I have discovered with so many people is that they have this sense of, they know that there's more for them. They know they want to do things differently. And this is why you may be drawn to shopping and to buying new things, right? You see things on Instagram, or you see these new pieces, these new fashion items, right? They feel very exciting to you and you want to buy them. And then you might feel like, oh no, I don't need this. This is just superficial. I'm here to tell you that your desire to shop and to bring in some newness, this is not superficial at all, okay? This is you tapping into this inner desire of wanting to change, of wanting to iterate, of wanting to reinvent. You want to shop. You want to bring in newness, right? But the problem is that you don't know how to shop and you're not bringing in the right things. Okay, you're bringing in clothes that are ending up in the closet. They're creating more clutter. And then when you look at them to get dressed, you feel disengaged, disconnected, bored. You don't want to wear any of it. That's the downward cycle. Okay, now the women who I work with, we work together to keep them progressing in the upward cycle. And they're all in the reinvention era. They're all in that moment. One of my clients right now, she was recently laid off from her big corporate job. And right now she's in that, what am I going to do next phase of her life, right? So that's what her reinvention era looks like, okay? Another one of my clients, she's working, she has a job, she just knows that there's more for her. She wants a better job, right? So she's looking for her next thing and she wants to feel ready, prepared, and energized when this new opportunity arises. And just so you know, when you are progressing in the upward cycle and you are full of life and you feel this energy, this not only is about elevating your own self-image, which shifts how you see yourself and how you receive yourself, right? And expressing your inherent self-worth. This is also about how other people see you, right? So the way that I work with my clients who are in the reinvention era and they want to progress in the upward cycle is I help them change their clothes. I give them new ideas so that they can dress differently. Because once they start dressing differently, then they start showing up differently. And once they start showing up differently, people start to see them differently, right? So I see this all the time with my clients, right? Women who were never really noticed for what they were wearing are now getting compliments, right? Women who were feeling a little bit uncertain when they were entering a room were now being the center of attention. People were focusing their attention on them, right? So it starts by dressing differently, showing up differently, and then you're seen differently. And then this leads to the elevated self-image, because then you start to see yourself differently, right? So again, the self-image, we are going beneath the perception. This is about how you receive yourself, right? This is about bringing forward your inherent self-worth. So I see we have a couple people here. Avi's here. Thanks for joining. And I'm so curious to hear about your reinvention era and what that looks like for you right now. So are you going through divorce? Are you empty nest? Are you pivoting in your career? I'm just so curious to know what your reinvention era looks like. And it's really important for you to stay engaged with these cycles, these life cycles that I spoke about, right? The upward cycle and the downward cycle, because they're happening, whether you realize it or not, right? So when you're in the upward cycle, it is very life-giving. And I know you may be thinking, oh, this is clothing. This isn't really important. It doesn't really matter. It's on the surface. But I just want to ask you, have you ever had that moment when you put something on and you feel that full connection of your clothing to your true self, right? So you are wearing something that you love, yes, but it gives you that feeling like, yes, this is so me. This is an energizing, life-giving feeling, okay? When you're showing up in this energy, people are going to respond to it and they're going to see you differently, okay? On the flip side, when you're showing up in clothes that are from old you, right? They're from your previous roles, your previous identities, all that old stuff that you used to be involved with but no longer are. That is how you are showing up, right? Just as an older version of yourself. So you're giving an inauthentic impression. People are seeing you for someone who you are no longer. Okay, so the way that I help my clients is I help them change their clothes. I help them start dressing differently. And if you're curious about what this looks like for you and you want to talk to me more about how I can help you use your personal style in service of your personal, I was going to say elevation, because really that is what it is, but it's also an evolution, right? It's your personal evolution so that you can retrieve more of your personal power, so you can be more in your personal power. Then let's talk. Okay, comment below, write the word me so we can get the conversation started, and we will talk about what that would look like for you to feel so inspired, so confident, so full of life by who you are, how you're showing up, and the way you see yourself, and what that will do for you in your reinvention era, because this is really important when you're in this reinvention era, right? The way that you move through this era now will determine how you come out on the other side. So you have the power to control it, you can direct it, you can redirect it if you need to, right? If you notice that you're in the downward cycle, you can redirect that current, right? You have the power. So I would love to chat with you. Comment the word me below, or if you're feeling extra courageous, just go ahead and send me a message and we will start chatting in the DMs. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and I will see you soon. Bye.